I'm winning. In Trump's mind, I'd be winning because I'm taking him out of his game. Now I'm the one that's supposed to be calling people clowns, not him.
Right, because he went low.
So he went low, and he's like, okay, he's down there with me. But in some ways, that's what people like Joe Biden, because they said of all the people who lined up, who's the most white collarish, a white blue collars cat who can go toe to toe with this fool who ain't blue collar at all. Trump ain't blue collar at all. Who could go toe to toe with him? And it was Joe Biden, and it was for that reason. So I think on some level, people expect that, and Joe can jump over that fence. He can stay in that lane for a second, but that's not his lane. He can get back in the other lane. Right. And Joe was the only one who could do that, who could jump in that lane. So I give him a little bit of leeway with that. I didn't prefer to see it. I thought it was like, what does he say? Shut up, man. And then somebody get this clown. That's like, you wise guy. It's like a 1950s detective story. Come on, clown, knock it off. It sounded like Dick Tracy or something. Come on, you clown. But and it's easy to say that us sitting here, but to be sitting there in the midst of that, and you got to think, like Joe may think, all the stuff he's been through, he's risking his, not risking his life, but giving his life to public service. So he's run for this office 2 or 3 times, and to see that he couldn't win, but this fool is in there, this clown, this is it. And dude, what's that about? So, even if he wins, you think of all the inauguration. Well, you can't have that now because you can't have thousands of people out there at inauguration. It's going to be somewhat bittersweet if he wins. And then if you got to go in and smoke this fool out, what do you got? What's your first order as a president? To get the militia in to get the whole president out. Can we do that, please? Can we come in? First job is to bomb the White House to get the old president out. How you going to do?
He said he's not leaving. He don't care what happens. He's not leaving the White House.
He'd be like a bad renter. You got a renter, and he's like, you got to evict him, and he just gonna start burning up portraits and slamming artifacts down, peeing in the stairwell. You don't know what this cat's gonna do. This is wild and crazy. We just don't know, Chief. What's he gonna do, Chief? What else gonna do, Miss Evers?
Oh man, that's funny. Only you could give that perspective, then, man.
Don't let
only you
just keep running. Stop me, please. Somebody stop me.
But
quick.
What'd you say?
Stop me. It's just all crazy. It's all crazy. I don't. It was not presidential debate material, but that's the problem. Everything is being redefined by this fool, which is why we have to reset and get him out of here. So this could be a blip on the screen to let us know how bad it is. This is tantamount to the Brexit thing in Great Britain, over there in Europe, and nobody thought that was going to happen, and that happened before this Trump thing, and here it is. But that touches on a whole nother thing. We can talk about that later. That has something to do with Facebook. We can talk about that in another show. That's a whole nother topic.
Well, one of the other concerns, obviously, was I guess that the big moment of the debate was, and when we've danced all around this, was the question about denouncing white supremacy. And now one of the things I have heard, again, I've listened around to the various networks, and that question really was, that was the big moment, if you will. And so, of course, now one of the concerns is the groups that they mentioned was that sort of a cue for them to get ready and be ready, as the president said during the debate, or was this some type of a Freudian slip? And now, of course, listening to the pundits this morning, they were all over that particular comment. And now that certainly when you take that right in its rawest form, that should create concerns for everyone, because ideally the way this thing is supposed to work, regardless of your party affiliation, you are supposed to have a degree of tolerance for all citizens, because if Biden becomes the president, he's the president of all the people. If Trump wins another election, he is the president of all the people. And so I think that's one of the things that sent a chill down my spine, because, I get politics is politics. The Republicans win, you do it the Republicans way. The Democrats win, you do it the Democratic way, and all that stuff. But I still think there has to be a degree of civility, and there also has to be that recognition that you are the president's people, whether the people voted for you or not. You are still responsible for their safety. You're responsible for making sure that you protect the borders and, all the other things that come with being, in charge of things. And you see it in your job and Shannon, in your jobs now. There are people that work with you that you don't necessarily agree with. You don't agree with their politics. There are other things that you don't agree with. But at the end of the day, when you're making policy for your respective employment situations, you have to look out for everyone's well-being, not just the people that gave you a cool gift for Christmas, or the folks that, agree with your football team, being the champions. You have to look out for everyone under your command. And I don't quite think that point has sunk in yet.
Yeah, well, he's never been one who, he don't care that he's not everybody's president. He doesn't say he's everybody's president. And this cat, he probably has to stay in office, because I think that's the only thing that's keeping his ass out of jail.
Well, and the other thing.
On my Facebook page said Joe is not the best answer, but he's the only answer right now.
I agree. I agree. I'm not, of the two, I think it's clear. You have to, because 4 more years of this one, we might not be able to come back from that for decades. Well, what he'll do and undo. I mean, can you imagine all of what would even him going? I'm a little concerned, even with him losing, all of the stuff he's been privy to, all the information he has, all the clearance he has, all the information about, international stuff that he has, that he could broker or bargain with or sell or, I'm thinking about those things down the line, let alone him just sitting in office and messing up this country, but pretty much demolishing the country. And anybody watch the end of the debate? If you stayed on long enough to the end, when the wives come up and, Dr. Biden came up and hugged Joe and all that stuff, and Melania walked up there and just stood next to him. Ain't hug him, ain't do nothing. Now, if she don't love him, what in the hell are y'all doing loving him like that? I mean, if she didn't want to be bothered with him, you seen he smacked the hand, all of this stuff. I mean, he's just wide open. I'll give him that. He's not professing to be anything else other than what he is. So when somebody is that blatant and is that obvious, then the reflection isn't on him. It's on us, the population, the Americans, the people who are voting. It's on us. What is he? If he's our representative, what does that say about us?
Sure. So what is it saying when someone show you who they are? Who they are? You believe them? Should you believe them?
That's right.
Sure.
Yep.
Well,
and that's what he's saying. It's time to get up and do something. So if you're comfortable sitting on your ass on election day, or not voting or not going through whatever it is, and just gonna roll another one up, sit down there, or throw another one back and say it don't matter. My vote don't matter. I had to get Kwesi Mfume on here one day. Kwesi Mfume, who won his city council election, I think by 1 vote.
Wow,
1 vote. And he went on to be Congress, and then he went to the NAACP, and then he's back in Congress again now. But imagine what would have happened if that 1 vote, didn't happen. And I'm sure there's other spaces where somebody won by 1 vote in big elections or small, but the fact is it matters.
Sure.
So they were talking today on Fox News, and they were saying that the Democrats are going to sit at home and mail in their ballots. Republicans are going to go in and post their ballots. So we're going to sit back, and it's going to be too late to count our ballots. How do you guys feel about that?
And you said that they said the Democrats going to mail theirs in.
And Republicans aren't going to go in because they don't believe in the virus right now. They don't believe it's a virus. So they're going to go to the polls and vote in person and cast their ballots versus Democrats are going to go mail their ballots and wait for them to make it to be counted.
Well, yeah, I absolutely see that happening. And I mean, if you look at the rallies that have been held, I mean, the president has had rallies everywhere he can get away with, with a lot of people, and a lot of people don't believe. And you see, and that's the problem that I'm having right now. I remember when 9/11 struck. I know every one of us can remember exactly what you were doing when you found out that the towers were hit. You can remember what you said, what you did, where your family was, all that kind of stuff. And the one thing that sticks out in my mind, I remember I was watching President Bush. He was at Ground Zero with the megaphone in his hand. He had his arm around one of the first responders, and he was talking about, the different things and encouraging America and just kind of reassuring folk. And one thing I remember him saying was that, you can believe, and I'm paraphrasing, that our voices will be heard. Well, in that moment, I was like, oh, hell yeah. You know what I mean? We're going to go over here and we're going to whip some ass and we're going to do some things and we're going to handle this. We're going to handle our business, And so, you really felt a sense of oneness and togetherness, and we're going to get through this as a country. I remember driving home that evening and seeing people, black people, white people, driving with flags in the back of their cars and in the back of their trucks. You know what I mean? It was just a real patriotic time at that point. And this crossed party lines. President Bush was probably more popular than he's ever been, but people really believe that he was looking out for America. And that's historically, when the president comes and rallies America around a crisis, normally America responds accordingly. And this time you just don't get that. You don't get that vibe. And, again, putting the politics aside, the coronavirus, COVID-19, doesn't give a damn about how much money you have, your politics. You see, it took Herman Cain out. He was a staunch Republican, just like it took out, staunch Democrats. So it really doesn't care who you are. And so, it was just kind of surprising that something that impacts all of us. It doesn't care who you are or where you live. It'll strike you down and get you on a respirator and take you out of here. So, from that sense, I think that was a real missed opportunity, not only to show leadership, but to bring the country together. And my other concern is that we've become so divided as a country over various issues that I wonder how that impacts our preparation and vulnerability in terms of protecting ourselves. Because on the one hand, you have one group saying, oh man, there's no way we need to be able to go to McDonald's and not wear a mask and all these other things. And you have another group saying, oh, you need to keep your mask on, so forth and so on. But imagine if this pandemic really gets out of hand, like they're predicting it will come out with the flu. Look at the vulnerabilities that are exposed in terms of us being able to prepare and defend ourselves. If we're all, if half of us have COVID and we're dying and on respirators, how do we defend ourselves?
Not well. It affects you, and that's the key. That's why I say it's such a stark contrast between what you have to vote for. This is not, a matter of, well, I really don't want to vote for Joe Biden because my taxes will be, I don't want to pay those taxes. That's going to hurt my pocket. Well, you vote for this other cat, or if you don't vote at all and this other cat gets in and you lose your health care, you die. Some folks are going to die. That's it. Folks are dying already with health care.
Yep.
So imagine what's going to happen to folks who don't have health care at all. And it is being right worth that? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth any life. I don't think politics should cost you your life, literally. And we're at that point. I think it's always like that, but it's really clear that folks will lose their life. Folks, and some will say, "Oh, that's just too much. You're just extreme." No, it's not just extreme. That's happening. mean, as I said, people are